Welcome to Success on Your Terms. The mission of this podcast is simple: to give you the strategy, skills, thinking tools, and to share incredible stories from mission led business owners so you create the life you want and success on your terms. Lynsey, welcome to Success on Your Terms podcast. I'm delighted to have you on. One, because I've known you for some time now. Two, because you're a client. And three, because even more importantly, you've got some incredible value that we need to get out to the world and share, ironically, in messaging, but also just for what you do and people you can help. So let's kick off. Share who you are, what you do, and I often say anything random, but anything that just comes to mind, just go with it.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Yeah, I'm Lynsey. I am a female productivity coach. So, what does that mean? That means that my fundamental belief is that if you can't look after yourself, you can't look after your business. So, you need to invest time in you and yourself. So, I'm very, very passionate about female health, in the fact that we just aren't represented and looked after and researched as much as we should be. And that really can play a huge part in our productivity and how we show up and how we run our businesses. So it's really about education and also, dare I say the word, empowerment to make sure that women have the confidence and the knowledge to be able to take back control of their health and their business.
Yeah, and the point you alluded to there around, showing up in a business and ironically, really just putting your own oxygen mask on
Yeah,
first is, and like very much similar to what I talk about of like health and fitness in my messaging and things, but
yeah.
it is so important, right? Because everybody wants to be successful, and we'll come on to what that means, but they want the outcome and that, but they're not thinking enough about sometimes the inputs and what that means, and even things around starting with you and awareness. And I was speaking to somebody earlier on this who has a strong coaching background like myself, and obviously you, and I think sometimes we can get quite bubbled that we get like we just take it for granted what we know and how we are. Things like self-awareness, putting yourself first to help others and things. And you have to remember that like not everybody has experienced that or has that awareness. And therefore what you're doing has the ability to make such a difference and bring so much change. And you're right about the education part. It's so important. Now, I know from you being a client, but let's break it down a bit more. What are the specific areas that you help clients on that you've been really passionate about creating in your offer?
So it's really going back to basics. So many women are unaware, like you say, it's the awareness piece, which is probably the
Yeah.
biggest part. So bringing awareness back to the basics, whether it be your sleep, whether it be your overall health, all of those things. Like you say, if you're not aware of it in the first place, you can't do anything about it. So it's bringing that awareness in first of all, looking at ways that you can improve your lifestyle, your health, and ultimately productivity. So some of the ways I've helped my clients, and it's so varied. So I've got one client who was really struggling with their time management, and we had to work on so many different issues, and it's treating the actual person as opposed to the problem. So they're project managing, they're having to deal with lots of different tasks, but it's actually they're struggling to get up in the morning. They're struggling to be able to have the energy to get through the day. So let's look at that first. Where are you there? And it's such simple things like, they're suffering with allergies, but they're not taking any antihistamines. And it's like, why not? Such a basic thing that can help you. Um, they're iron deficient, they're vitamin D deficient because they're actually in that community of people that are going to be more likely to be vitamin D deficient. So it's working on their habits, that how can you build that into your life so that you don't forget to take your antihistamines, you don't forget to take your vitamin D, and that's going to help improve your immunity. It's going to help improve, your ability to focus during the day. Some of my clients, for example, have ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD, which is such a common thing now.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we have in our lives now are just designed to distract us, like the precious mobile phone. So simple things like getting a lockbox for your phone and putting your phone in a lockbox when you go to bed at night so you don't sit there at 2 o'clock in the morning scrolling on your phone. And it seems like something that's so simple.
Mm.
but it's one of the most easiest, it's been one of the most, game-changing things that my clients have found because they've managed to break that habit. So it's not just about building in new habits, it's also about breaking the bad ones as well, the ones that are not actually serving us and doing us any good. So yeah.
There's also a part in that around, I guess what comes to mind is a bit like that people need someone else to give them a bit of permission to like you said, it is simple, isn't it? Like I just thought like would I need a box? But then I was like, but do I sit there at 2 in the morning? I was like, we already do. So it's like, but sometimes we need that sense of leadership direction or someone telling us sometimes what to do, whether we like that or not, to make sure that we then give our time to the right things. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, like you just said there, it is the simple things. That's what I'm saying with like strategy and stuff. Like, just keep it simple. Like, I'm always joking people like, I send you a Google Doc. This is what you get because I want you to do it. And it's about keeping it like step by step as a process of people. And I
Yeah.
think what I love about what you do is you've got huge empathy, compassion for your clients, but also huge meaning behind what you do.
Mm.
Where's that come from for you to want to help women on all this productivity, health, well-being, everything?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was spending years and years and years in bed, not being able to get out, not being able to function. The only time I get out of bed is really to go and take my son to school and pick him up again. And it got to breaking point. I was in a situation where I was beginning to lose my memory. I was losing my hair. As my husband said, I was swimming in my sleep. I was breathless. It was just an awful situation to be in. And it turned out that yet again, I was anemic through a lack of iron. And when I looked at my history, I'd never got my level above 20 in the whole of my adult life, even through pregnancy. I'd always floated around. The lab ranges start from 12 on your ferritin up to 250. And I was always floating around 12, 13. I was never very high. And anyway, this particular time, my level had dropped down to 4. So I was really on literally the bones of my arse. I just had no energy, and all I wanted to do was sleep, and no sleep was actually going to make any difference. So we went to the doctors. I had to take my husband with me because I thought they were going to think I'm mad if I go in there and say I'm losing my memory. Um, and they took me seriously. They did a blood test, and that's when we found out that I was back down to 4. And the answer was iron tablets, which I couldn't go back on. They made me so ill. So I did some research. I found a clinic in London and I went for an iron infusion. And that was, without any shadow of a doubt, life-changing for me. And since then, I've done so much. I love my research. I've done so much research into women's health. One of the reasons that I was always lacking iron was because I had endometriosis. And again, this is a condition that there is so little research on, and so little is understood by GPs alike. So from that, I've gone down several rabbit holes and found out some just incredible information that's just going, how is this possible? We're in 2024, and how are we not equal in terms of our health to men? But we're not. If you look at menopause, I think it's something like 8 out of women will go undiagnosed. Whereas if you compare that to erectile dysfunction for men, only 3 in 10 men will end up being undiagnosed. The ratio is just crazy. So yeah, so for me, that's where I get my passion from, is the fact that we are so underrepresented. And if I can help women feel better, get more done, be more active, be more confident in who they are and what they're doing, then that is what I want to do, because I know what it was like to feel like I had nowhere to go and I had no confidence in myself, because it zaps when you're chronically ill, it zaps not just your energy, but it also zaps your confidence as well. So being able to rebuild that, being able to get to the point I am now where I can get through the day and not have to take a nap is just incredible. So I want to see the same for women, whatever their issue is, whether it's an autoimmune, whether it's neurodivergency, whether it's, hormonal health like menopause or perimenopause, all of those things, they have the ability to take back control and be able to live a better life. And not only that, still run a business alongside it.
Yeah. Well, with all of that, what do you want to be known for?
The main thing really is an advocate for women's health,
Mm.
because we are so underrepresented. I'll just give, for example, I'll give you some stats. In 1993, it became compulsory for women to be included in medical research.
Yeah.
It was only in 2016 that they decided, whether you agree with medical testing on animals is another matter, but they only decided in 2016 to include female mice and rats. And then it was only last year, 2023, the sanitary companies decided that they would stop testing their products on water. We are so underrepresented, and
Mm.
I just cannot get that across. So it's really a case that we have to take back control. We have to be inquisitive. We have to be pushy, I suppose, is probably the best word to be. But some people just don't have the confidence to do that. So that's where I come in, to help with
Yeah.
the confidence, to be able to say and question, is this actually right?
Yeah. Have you found that hard for yourself to have the confidence to get this across to people as well? Because like you've
Oh,
got to have
100%.
the research, but like unless we get it out there, we can't help people, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's been, this year's particularly for me, I've gone through menopause and not menopause, but perimenopause. And that's thrown up all sorts of things I was not prepared for. And I was very much in denial last year. I was quite happy to turn around to my friends going, I've got no signs of perimenopause. I'm fine. This year, it hit me like a thunderbolt. And it made me realize, again, how little we know and how much education is still needed to be passed out there. I mean, obviously, it is a very hot topic at the moment, menopause and
Right.
perimenopause, and we're starting to see more people talk about it, which is great. But until you reach it, you've got no idea what's in store for you. So that affected my confidence this year. I was all ready to go and get out there, and then all of a sudden, I felt really flawed, and I was questioning who I was, what was going on. I felt okay one minute, and then next minute, for 2 or 3 days of the month, I was really low and depressed.
Mm.
I was like, but I've got nothing to be depressed about. What's going on? But it was just my hormone levels were up and down. And again, when we look at hormone levels, they have a huge part to play in us and how we are productive. Because certain times of the month, we're going to be more productive than others. But that's so little talked about and so little understood.
Mm. What way do you get this across for your clients? How do you work with them on communicating these, but then also making it very relatable for them and for them to go away and take action on?
So in one-to-one sessions, we really do concentrate on what it is that they need.
Yeah.
What do they need to go away and do? So we look at everything. I make sure my clients really take ownership,
Yeah.
so that they get the stats, they get the figures. They don't just go to a doctor with a little begging bowl and say, please, sir, make me better. We actually need to know our numbers. We need to know our blood results and actually where we're at.
Mm.
They'll turn around and say, you're fine, your bloods are absolutely fine. And then you go away thinking, okay, that's okay, my bloods are fine. Actually, though, if you get those numbers and have a look, there are
Mm.
things that you can do, simple tweaks with your diet or potentially with supplements that can improve and make you feel better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's really about getting them to look at their whole life as opposed to just one area. So, you want to be more productive. Great. There are tons of productivity tools out there that we can use, things that we can implement, things that we can look at. But if you're not feeling well in the first place, all of those things can be so much harder to put into place.
Mm. And I think that like even for me, like one thing working with yourself is I'm always learning from clients and we can always learn from everybody. But the fact that we were going through things and talking around like what works for you. And I know there's certain things that I would do that would work for me because it's how I learn, etc. But they won't work for you. And it's important that we are again, one, compassionate of ourselves, but two,
Mm,
compassionate of others that how do we adapt and how do we do the right things, but also slowing it down to say, like you've said before, like this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon, and taking the time to really understand yourself with everything.
yeah.
I think, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Saying like, should we, it's almost a bit like, do we challenge doctors? But I know last year, I think it was last year I went and they put me at one point as anemic and then I had iron supplements and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I train and do weights quite a bit, so my energy is a huge thing to work on. But then I went back and they were like, "Oh no, you didn't really. Like, it wasn't that bad." And I was like, "But he said it was. So now you're saying it's not. So where do I sit with that?" So I was like, "I sit
Yeah.
with how I bloody feel, or I
Yes.
sit with where my energy's at for the gym, and not comparing myself to 10 years ago when I was 27 and I could
Yes.
smash a day's work and a workout, and it's okay. I don't quite have that energy at 37." But
Yeah.
it's understanding again, like you just said, then the process of I don't have the answers overnight, but I need to go a bit on that journey and take it step by step. But there's also been a real use in talking, being able to have the right people around me, like conversations like this,
Yeah.
and some been clients where I've then become their client because I'm looking at different things. Like I always say that, like, we all have mental health challenges in different ways.
Yeah.
People just learn to deal with them differently and manage them differently. And
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I have a mind that I've given a lot of time to work out. Like when I was a few years back and I got signed off for depression, I did a lot of work at the time on myself and with people and just had a lot of time out. And I learned, and I did loads of research on the pharmaceutical industry that actually traps you, and it's all, a scam. And same with even the fitness industry is a scam, right? Do we really think that they want people to be super skinny? No, because they wouldn't have jobs, would they? So all of those things I researched, and I did a lot of research around just getting out in nature can like really manage our mental health. So I'm a big advocate of that over things like going to the doctor. First of all, I'm a big advocate of getting my own me time and things, because I think that really changed it. But you have to go on that journey on your own as well, and you have to have great people around you. Like I've had my client Shalini, who's we're doing some work in nature and stuff. So everybody else, it will seem balmy potentially, but for us and what I'm doing, it gives me clarity. It gives me the space I need. It gives me the ability to see clearly, or to see life from a different perspective, all of which has an absolute direct impact on my business and how I show up. It's so important to step out of sometimes the conventional box and have these conversations with yourself and others to see where it takes you. And that's what I love about what you're doing,
Mm.
is that you're creating that opportunity for women to do that in a very different way than they've ever done it before.
Yeah, 100%. It comes back to permission as well, having
Yeah,
permission, because a lot of us don't allow us the time to actually go and invest in ourselves and whatever that might be. And
yeah,
it's also understanding, like, if we need to lower our parasympathetic nervous system, how do we do that? What works
yeah.
for one person isn't going to work for the next person. So some people might love a sound bath. Another person could think of nothing worse. And they'd be like, oh no. Some people, like you say, would love to walk in nature and they find that really calming, really relaxing and helps, like you say, reset themselves. So it's finding out what that is and going into a space where you can explore that,
Mm.
with somebody that's happy to help guide you through that and go, okay, what is it that you need? I bring meditation a lot into what I do, and the results I get from it are really powerful.
I love that.
And yeah, like I say, it's tapping into that subconscious and finding out what it is that you actually need. What is it
Yeah.
that comes to mind? And often the answers are there. We just need a little prompt or something in the right direction to get us there.
I've noted it down because I had a coach a few years ago who, when I left the corporate world, started a business, I was like, I need a coach. So I'd sign up somebody. Then I signed up to a mastermind because I was spontaneous. But the one-to-one coach was incredible. Every session, we started off with a meditation, and he invited us like, look, it may feel weird, but there's an invitation to it. If you don't want to do it, we won't do it, and we'll see how you feel on a day. And I always I was almost like yearning for that call with him to be like, I just need the meditation. But to an outsider, you could look in and think like, what on earth are you doing? And
Yeah.
I've done it sometimes with some clients, and some, like, even that, sometimes they've loved it, sometimes like, no, let's just jump on with it. But sometimes forcing yourself to do those things at the start, but that they are incredible um, ways of changing how you see things, managing yourself, experiencing different things, changing perspective, but just giving yourself, I think what I say around it is it's just the time to think as well at points, and the space. And I can say that with clients, and we'll know through the power of coaching that sometimes, dependent where a client's at, like some of the best calls have just been where I've asked very, very few questions or told them very little, because they've just needed the space where I said, I'm not distracted in this time with you. I'm just having a bit of time to think and a space with somebody who gets it, and I just need to talk about how I'm feeling. And
Yeah,
that in itself are sometimes the most profound experiences and sessions for people. And that's where I know the work you're doing, what you're sharing there, the meditation is, even if you haven't done it, like, give it a go, try it, because you never know what change can come from it.
100%. And the one thing that I always start nearly every session with a client, the first question I ask them is, tell me what's consuming your thoughts right now.
Yeah.
Because there will be something that's dominating their thoughts, that's getting in the way. So before we can even deal with whatever it is that they need help with, I guarantee there's going to be something that's going on, whether it's a conflict somewhere, or they're worried about work, or there's a boss that's particularly being demanding or something. And actually having the chance and the space to talk about that before you then get into the bones of what you're really there to do,
Mm.
that just, that you can just see the relief being taken off the shoulders, because they've had that chance to talk about what it is that's really concerning them there and then in that moment of time. And it changes every week when you speak to a client.
You got someone listening right now who's thinking like, this is kind of me, this is where I'm at, this is what I need some support on. What may be some more of the symptoms that they're feeling right now that they're either putting off or they're being challenged by, that you would be able to help them on?
I think the biggest thing that my clients say, they don't know what's wrong. They know something's wrong, but they don't know what it is. They can't pinpoint it, and they need someone to unpick that with them.
Yeah,
A lot of clients, they don't even realize they need coaching, to be honest with you.
yeah.
They've come to me through various different means, and they've gone, wow, I did not know this was what I needed
Mm.
until they've actually had it. So
A
yeah,
lot of
so
people
they're
don't know
often,
what coaching is though, do they
yeah,
still? Like,
100%.
huge thing.
100%. Yeah. It's such a misunderstood vocation, really, I think,
Yeah,
by a lot of people. So yeah, so a lot of people just feel stuck. They feel really despondent. They're not making the progress that they want to be making.
yeah,
And so it's just being in that situation. But often it's not one thing, it's a multitude of things that they
yeah,
need to look at.
yeah, yeah. And that is where it takes the time and is important, isn't it, to focus on. What's been what's been your biggest challenge this year for you in
Uh,
reflection?
for me, in life or in business,
Either the, whatever comes to mind.
I would say, to be honest with you, it's probably, well, it's affected both, to be honest with you. Going through the perimenopause this year, I'm also waiting for an ADHD assessment myself, because I suspect, like my son, I have ADD. So I interestingly found out last year that if you are diagnosed or undiagnosed with ADHD in a woman and you hit the perimenopause, it can often feel like you're just falling off a cliff.
Wow.
And that's probably the best way of me describing this year. So yeah, and a few other stressful events that have gone on behind the scenes, which, life does throw at you, and you have to find a way to cope and manage with them. 6 months later, now I'm feeling more like myself. The HRT is working, thank
Yeah.
goodness. I voluntarily tried antidepressants, but they didn't work for me. And I've that's another topic that I can talk about lots, but I won't today. But yeah, so I'm in a much, much better place now. I've got more clarity, I've got more energy through doing and taking action, really. And this is the thing, that we often don't know where to go, what help to get until we're at that point. So yeah, that's been my biggest challenge. And it's definitely affected, like I say, my confidence, how I felt about myself. But that's coming back. And it is, confidence is never something we're born with. It's something, we learn, and we can lose it, but we can also gain it back again. And all sorts of things can affect our confidence, whether it's a relationship, whether it's our health. They're all things that are going to impact us in one way or another.
Yeah, confidence is a huge one, and I think people think they want it, opposed to like it's the result. You got to
Mm,
have the courage as a prerequisite, and then like we've spoken before, like what's our knowledge, what's experience, how much do we believe in something, just going for it as well. There
yeah.
is, and the confidence comes in time for sure. What's what's a what's a question that you feel is really powerful that you ask clients to almost get them to a point of like realizing like I need this. And this is like something different. It's a powerful. I'm so fascinated by questions right now.
Um, like I say, I think the most powerful one I always start the session with is, what is dominating your thoughts right now, without a shadow of a doubt. It is always the biggest one because so much comes out from that
Yeah,
people are unaware that because this is dominating their thoughts so much, they're not able to see the wood for the trees. So
yeah,
dealing with that first and foremost is the biggest game changer in terms of a coaching session, because then literally you are clearing the decks to be able to then work on what it is that they actually need to work on. So
yeah,
clearing that first and foremost is the most important. After that, it's it's always about what is it that is going to work for them, what is it that they need, and often they don't need that, and that's where sometimes I will bring the medication, sorry. I will bring the meditation in because that often allows the brain to quieten down. The subconscious has a chance to kick in, and we can get to somewhere where we can see a little bit of clarity and what it is that they actually need. So yeah, so I use lots and lots of tools in my coaching. It's never a one size fits all. It's always coach the person, not the problem.
yeah. Where do you see your business being in 5 years?
Oh, good question. I would like to have an app that is specifically for women, that can look at all aspects of their health and their life, because there are so many things we are yet to understand about us. For example, productivity. Take that. Nearly all the productivity tools and books that have been written by men, predominantly for men.
Yeah.
And when you start looking into the difference between the male brain and the female brain and how we operate, it's very, very different.
Mm,
And so therefore we need a different set of tools to cope with our lives, because ultimately we are juggling a lot more balls
mm,
than the men are, in terms of how busy our lives are, whether we have children or not. We are often, our brains are ticking. As soon as we hit the pillow, we're then thinking about, what have we done, what we needed to do today? Have we got everything we've done for tomorrow? Have I done this? Have I got that prepared? And maybe the men sit there and think that, but I don't think they do. I think they do tend to
mm.
switch off a lot easier than what us women do, because we've got a lot more that we're thinking about. And like I say, it's just because our brains are wired differently.
Yeah. But it is very different. And for anybody that doubts that, I know from even being in the fitness space and having coaches in that as well for me, but there's a certain book, I can't remember what it's called, that is just purely for women on health and fitness, because
Yeah.
again, all of that side of things is around men,
Yeah.
all of it. And when I look back and think some of the stuff when I did photo shoots and stuff and what I was being told to do, it was all generic, all of it. Like
Yeah.
it was all for men, even though one of them at one point was for women. And we did certain things around hormones and different things, because I didn't have a years ago I didn't have a period for 18 months because I dropped so low on for my body. I dropped to 58 kilos. It was
Mm.
just too low for me, and
Yeah.
everything stopped. And then it took ages, and it took doctors, and I went private and everything to look at like, how do I get back to this? And they didn't have the answers. It just in
Mm.
time it did. And how it was around then nutrition and everything else. But it's still people are, they're not educated in the right way. And that's why I'm passionate about things like, like coaches, like, we've done the work, haven't we? We know what coaching is and isn't. We know how to get them, like, really help people. And that's why I'm desperate for people to like work with people that can genuinely help you on the right things
Yeah.
of what you're doing, opposed to just going to anybody, because there's people out there saying they're doing it and they're not qualified in anything. And that's really key. And yet we waste so much time and money in the wrong things, and being around the right people with the right tools, as you said, that work for you. And finding those, that might take a bit of time, but like, ask
Exactly.
people as well, be curious to things and go on that journey.
Yeah, exactly. And understanding our hormones, it's
Yeah.
one of the things that I heard recently, and I thought, you know what, this is so true. If you look at little girls and you look at them before they get to secondary school, and they are sassy and they're confident, and
Mhm.
then they hit puberty, and this sassy, confident little girl becomes a shell of who they used to be, and their heads down and their shoulders are over and they're just hunched over. They won't make eye contact, and you can see their confidence drop. And it's just exactly the same when we get to perimenopause and menopause. We go through something hormonally that changes the way we feel about ourselves and our confidence levels, and understanding that, and that it's normal and that it's okay and that something can be done about it is the most important factor. So I really am a champion for girls and women in terms of rebuilding your confidence, no matter what has knocked it, whether it is puberty, whether it's menopause, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a bad work experience, client, whatever it might be, anything can knock our confidence. But that doesn't mean it needs to stay there. And it's just the same way as how we feel about ourselves when we feel angry. It's okay to be angry. Just
Mm.
don't stay there. Just
And
don't run.
that's why I love conversations like this, because I instantly, I can look at all my clients now and I can think, oh, this person, Shalini would be great for this, Sharon would be great for that. I'm always going on to one of my clients. I'm like, you're not, she's a director for a very famous music company, but she's building her business as well. And I'm like, you're not a newbie. I was like, she's late 30s, and I don't know, early 40s, but I'm like, you've got so much experience and knowledge, but you're acting like you're 18. She's like, oh, I
Yeah,
know, but Nat. And I'm like, no, it's not, I know Nat. It's like, just get out there and do it. Just go for it. It's incredible, the changes. And then my mum as well, I remember she came on a podcast a few years back, bless her, for talking around confidence, because I did a little series on it. And then I'll sometimes when I go around and she'll say, I've listened to your podcast. And I'm like, all right. She goes, wrote some notes. And I was like, oh, what? And she just like how to be confident and doing this on self-doubt and this, and I'm like, just do it, just or she said at Christmas, I remember it because it stuck out, she was like, well, what do you think on this and that? And I was like, on whose expectations in life? Like, who am I living my life around for that to happen? I was like, no, it's just so funny. And so what is my gift is, is what I have to play on. But it's you're right, like there are different moments, and again it's back to what we said at the start, it's the awareness of those in yourself as well, calling yourself out on it, taking ownership, taking responsibility, and
exactly.
saying no, like I don't want that anymore. And I am a big believer in getting the right people around you, because there's plenty of people that won't, but the people that do believe in you and the people that will help you. And you know you're gonna, I think sometimes I often say a bit of confidence, there is almost a little bit, you have to be a little bit like deluded with some of it, like just
Mm.
go for it, like what's the worst that can happen, who cares, just go for it, because you know that there's people that need your help in what you do.
Exactly. And yeah, we sometimes we know what we need to do. It's like
Mm.
losing weight or let's say eating healthily, for
Yeah,
example. We all know a
yeah,
carrot's more healthier for us than a Snickers bar.
yeah,
Doesn't always stop us from eating the Snickers bar, though. Do you know what I mean? So, sometimes we do, but we need someone there to remind us that actually, do you know what? You need to put the Snickers bar down if you want to lose a few pounds. So it's having that person there that's going to hold your hand without any judgment as well, because
yeah, that's
that's what we
massive.
all feel. And do you know what? I think that's the biggest thing that holds most people back is fear of judgment. We all
Yeah.
get fear of being judged. And, when you said about your mum listens to podcasts, I thought, oh my God, who's going to listen to this podcast? Oh, if I advertise it out there, Aunt Nellie, not that I have an Aunt Nellie, but, it's going to listen to this. And I'll be like, oh, did I need to tell her about, my
It's
perimenopause?
funny though. Earlier, I've had a few sales calls today, and then I've done another podcast this morning. But I had an email about, like, I've been doing a few things, and they declined something or rejected it, and I was like, next one, and I was like, oh my God, it's taken me like 2 years to get to the point where I'm like, next one, move on. Before, like,
Yeah,
literally, that was my automatic response to it, and I was like, bloody brilliant. Because before I'd be like, why would they reject that? Oh my God, like what? But do they not think like my business is good enough? Is it not enough people at the event? Is it not enough this? And I was like, that would be my mindset before. And then today it was like, okay, cool, next thing. And I want more of that, because like that's the way it's going to take me forward. But yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? But this is why we need to talk about these things. This is why we need to get it out there, help more people, and genuinely, like you always say about, like, give genuine value on this to what people they want, but also that they really need on things. And sometimes what we
yeah,
want isn't what we need.
100%, 100%. And I've recognized that this year, I could have gone to a coach that was just going to put their arm around me and tell me, oh, Lynsey, it's okay, it's all right, what can you do to make yourself feel better, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't what I needed. I
Yeah.
needed someone to say, like yourself, to go, just do it.
No.
Just do it. Just,
That's
no
cool.
nonsense, no
Yeah.
fluff. That's what I need. I knew that's what I needed. I had that awareness. And I
Yeah.
think that is part of it, is knowing what you need as
Yeah.
opposed to what you want.
I've
And
got one friend who's a very good coach in the fitness industry, very established business, and he is like, if people think I'm no BS, he's no BS on another level. And we have calls every other, like, no, about once a week. We just download, or like he'll be on the way to the gym. He's like, "Hey Jim, what's going on?" And I was like, "Oh, I thought of this." And the other week he was like, "It's amazing." No, and I was like, "That was it." And I was like, "Yeah, but." No. And I was like, okay, then cool. But I just thought, he's like, yeah, Nat, look, I do the same, right? I get these really good ideas. It's not happening. My coach tells me no, it's a no. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But
yeah,
I needed that bit of that as well. I needed like that validation for someone to go, yeah, it's not happening. And we do. And that's the point. I think how you do it's different. And that's why I always say, like, yeah, I can be no bullshit. Yes, I can be direct, but I'll always seek to do it with empathy and compassion, the right way of people in
yeah,
how I deliver it. And I think that's the key with everything that we do. But like you said, like, do we really want someone that's just gonna go, oh, it's all right today? And like,
yeah,
I know the difference between getting on a call with someone where they just can't be there. And I'll say, like, I'm human enough to go, like, what do you really need? Like, just tell me.
yeah.
But because I've worked with people where they're not as well. And that turns me off when people are like that. So
Mm.
um yeah, again, it goes back to the getting the right people around you, but you'll attract who you are. I'm a believer in that as well. You attract, this is getting the ideal client, you attract who you are.
Yeah, 100%. It's like I'm working with a fabulous VA at the moment, and we'll start a call and I'll be talking about what I'm going to be doing or what I plan to do. And then I said, oh, I've had this idea similar to what you just said. And she'll go, no, Lynsey, we're sticking to this. And I'm like, okay, just, stop trying to go 100 miles an hour. And that's often, my problem. I'm trying to get there before,
Yeah,
I've done ABC. I'm too keen to get
yeah,
to the end result. But yeah, so it's about knowing ourselves. And the more we get to understand ourselves, like you've done loads on disc profiling and things like that, the more understanding that we can have of ourselves, whether it's through personality testing or things like, understanding love language, all of
yeah,
these things all help build and have an understanding not just of ourselves, but other people around us as well, so that we're less
yeah.
judgmental and more understanding of what they're going through.
Well, jokes aside, but like I put Tom through assessments on stuff when we started dating. I made him do the disc one, and then we did the love languages because he's like he works in the police. His love language is service. I was like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Mine is time. But it's helped us communicate better as a couple to know like how we work and how we don't work, and then but also communicate and say like that doesn't work for me. That's just not ticking the boxes. This does, and to be open and honest is I definitely see that we have a very strong relationship in that way.
yeah,
And then I appreciate, understand why he has to do certain things. I'm like, really, why are we doing that? But I see for him that's important, or he's, like how we switch off is very different as well. So it's,
yeah,
yeah, you're spot on with, I think the real depths I want to take the business to next year are really around, again, building on with messaging is how we deliver messaging, but
yeah,
also like the stuff that's not spoken about, which is pure coaching background of global listening, asking better questions. Hence why I said to you earlier, like, what are
yeah,
the questions we ask ourselves, but then we ask others, and all of that is the undercurrent is communication, is how we communicate all the time of everything. And I don't think as business owners we quite grasp that in the right way, and it could really help us if we did look at it in that way.
yeah. I totally agree. And like I say, once you then understand the different communication styles and
Yeah,
different personalities, it does make your life so much easier. And you like you said, when you had a client that's or you've had a rejection, it's not quite so personal, and you can say, okay, that there was a reason for that. We weren't a good fit for whatever, and that's okay, and that's
yeah,
fine, because actually we don't need to be everybody's cup of tea. And what
no,
I've learned over the years of trying as a self-confessed people pleaser, um, is the more I try to fit in, the more I try to be liked by people, the more I try to be everyone's cup of tea, all I do is end up being taken as a mug,
Yeah.
and that saying really rings true to me. So
Mm.
I've really worked hard on my boundaries, really worked hard on setting firmer boundaries and having the, like you say, being surrounded by the right people, having the right people in my life. And that doesn't mean having yes people, because
No.
otherwise you end up like someone like, I don't know, Prince Harry, who's
Yeah.
probably never had somebody turn around and say no to him, which, you end up with a spoiled brat syndrome that he's
Yeah.
got, where, you can't actually turn around and say no to someone like that because they can't compute that. So you don't want that. You need people around you that will certainly challenge you and ask questions. One of my best friends, I absolutely adore her. Whatever I say, she'll challenge me back on it, and she'll
Mm.
challenge my thoughts and challenge what I say. Now, some people could get quite upset about that and go, "Oh, not speaking to you because you're
Yeah.
just going to question what I say." But actually, I really value it because it does make me look at the other side of the coin. And sometimes we need that.
Yeah, I think that, again, the piece of that is the respect, isn't it? And
Mm,
I remember that once leading a team, and like they used to get no quite a lot. Like, I hear it, it's not happening. No, and then like, let's crack on. But one
yeah,
of them once, he completely, it felt personal, and there was a lot going on in his personal life and stuff. But I just said, look, I don't really care if you like me, if I'm being blunt. I said, but you're not doing your job, and I'm going to manage you. And then I said, but you're going to respect me. I said, so you can do what you like about me, but you will respect me, and you're here, and that's what's going to happen. And it completely unpacked this massive thing for him about everything that's happening in his personal life, which, and he said, like, it's not you, it's not personal, it is all of this. But it was really interesting to see then how you can build relationships. Again, it's communication, but it's
yeah,
the parts of saying, standing for things and saying no, and like saying, like, I believe in something, or this is what you will be doing, and people
mm,
either conform or they don't. But like you said, you don't have to be for everybody, but there's the respect that you say we're not. And I say that I'm very careful, like, not, I try not to judge as much as possible, but we're human, and that's, again,
mhm,
coaching, is that we try not to judge. But on some things I'll just try and always say, look, it's just not for me, or they're not for me. And it doesn't,
yeah,
again, mean they're not valued for somebody else. And that's an important thing to see. But it's just
mm,
like, it's just not how I work, or it's not for me, and that's cool. And just literally just let it go. I think people have to, like, attach themselves to so much. Parts just think, cool, like I said, like, next one or next thing, or
yeah,
like all the best, but it's not for me. And that's okay.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
you never know where those relationships will take, even just then, because there's stuff I think and think, well, it's not for me. But in my head, it sits there, and I'm like, but you'd be amazing for them. And I think that's the key as well to growing your communities and relationships, yourself, and business as well. I always come to the question, what does success mean to you? So over to you. What's your definition of success?
success for me is always working towards something, because I don't feel that success has a final destination.
No.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So to finalize it as I will be successful when I have
Yeah.
XYZ is unrealistic. It's not, for me, success is being happy in who I am,
Yeah.
which I feel I am, being happy with the people that I'm around,
Yeah.
being happy with the level of business that I'm doing and the clients that I'm working with. Um, so yeah, so for success for me isn't defined as one particular thing. No amount of designer handbags are going to define my success. Yes, I like a designer handbag. Who doesn't? But it's not going to define me. These things are materialistic. For me, it's more about where I am in life in terms of the people around me. They're much more
Yeah.
important.
It's a real shift. I love everything you've said there, and I see that again in the health stuff. Is that, like, people are so focused on the output, and that's why I relate fitness and business, because same business people are so focused on the output. It's like, what's the
Yeah,
input? Like, are you really happy with what you got in the present right now?
yeah,
And like, I love the process, and that's the thing
yeah,
that sometimes irritates me. But I sometimes almost like the process of it being hard at times as well. I realize, because I like a challenge.
yeah,
But I think when you can see, like you said, like, success is like you have it. And I think that was a big thing I did last year, working on, I spoke about it at Danny Wallace's Be Inspired, but around this element of freedom. And I had to really go on a journey and challenge myself on, what does freedom really mean to me? You know,
Yeah.
it's not just financial freedom. And actually, my mindset coach at the time said, you know, you got freedom right now. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, you could go to the gym and whatever you want to do, like your walks and everything you like to do, you could do that right now, right? So I'm like, yeah. She goes, so really you have freedom now, don't you? And I was like, yeah. And it completely changed how I saw things for me. And it was
Yeah.
relevant to me at that time. And I think, again, like we can see some people having that challenge in us can really help us to change the way we see things.
100%.
It's been a pleasure. It's been incredible. Like, how can people connect with you? That's one thing I need to ask.
So you can find me on my website, which is lynseyturner.com, or you can find me on Instagram, which is Lynsey Turner Coaching or Lynsey_Turner_coaching. But yeah, I'd love to connect with you, with, anybody that's listening.
Yeah, I always share that, like, literally do connect and do make him like send a message, do that extra part than just connect and don't talk to people. But look, really, like, if anything that has been shared today has resonated for either of us, just make sure you connect. And I'm loving what you're doing. I hope everybody listens to this to the point where you're like, they all message you saying, I listened to it. I listened, they could be saying, I listened and I judged and it was amazing, but in the right way.
Judge away, judge away. I'm fine.
But listen to it, share your comments because it helps you, it helps us get out to more people and help more people, which is absolutely what we want to do. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Natalie. It's been a pleasure.
I really hope this podcast has taught you something that you never knew before. I want to expand what you think is possible and get you thinking differently in your life and business. So I would really love your feedback. If you're on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, all you need to do is leave a review and share what you like. And if you would like to know more about how I can help you with your messaging or business, making more money, send a message with the keyword podcast and I'll send you a complimentary audit with me where I will have you looking at your business and you will walk away with free actions to be making more money in your business right now.